Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. I'm Mick Cornett along with Kent Meyers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and boy, this is a subject that touches everyone's lives.
Yes, I know that we had to do this show because you wouldn't come back if we didn't. Mick let me know early on he wanted to do a show on cybersecurity, and there's no place better than the University of Tulsa to go for resources about that, and that's what we've done today with Dr. Tyler Moore.
Great work being done in this area. It's all coming up today on The Verdict, and we'll be right back.
ECU always hosts this event every year called Tiger Tank, where you bring your ideas for a product or business. Tiger Tank itself actually was a very big competition. What we came up with is a product that allows you to play old video games on a phone. I am Cody Greenwood. I am studying mass media communications at ECU, and I am Chickasaw. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. One of the biggest things a lot of people don't understand, it's a lot of social anxiety and awkwardness. A lot of people may have seen it as a setback, but in reality, I find it a way to be motivated to do something with my life. Being Chickasaw is resilience. They never give up. My grandfather, he's always told me, you get back what you put in, and I just want to give back to the Chickasaw Nation that is given to me.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
One of the best kept secrets about the post 9/11 GI Bill benefit is that it can be used at a trade school or a technical school, and it doesn't have to be used at a university or college. These are benefits that the veterans have earned through their service, and they should take advantage of it.
Veterans really need to understand that there are many resources offered by the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs. They are there to help you find the right school for you, the school that will help you and your family make great steps into your future.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are really pleased today to welcome Dr. Tyler Moore to our show. Dr. Moore did his undergraduate work at Tulsa University, did his PhD at Cambridge University, then did postdoctorate work at Harvard University for 3 years, then taught at Southern Methodist University before returning home. We were able to lure him back to Oklahoma, and in 2015 he joined the faculty at the University of Tulsa and has been here since then. He is an expert in cybersecurity, and genuinely, we've talked a little bit before starting, genuinely a nice guy also to be so smart. We're sure glad to have you, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on the show. Let's talk in general. Talk about the program at Tulsa University on cybersecurity and what the average person might not want to know about in a broad basis about what's being offered.
Sure. So the program at TU has been around a long time. So it started around 25 years ago, and wow, in the computer science department originally. And so students can come and pursue a degree and learn about cybersecurity at the undergraduate level all the way up through to the PhD. Since this time, because cybersecurity is such an interdisciplinary field, it hasn't just stayed within computer science. And so we now have faculty and students from the business school, from law, from psychology, and other engineering disciplines who all sort of come together for cybersecurity education and participation in research and training.
So how did you get involved? What was the track of your education that led you to the position you have today?
Well, after a very solid education at Broken Arrow Public Schools, I received a scholarship to attend the University of Tulsa and was fortunate enough to participate in their TURC program, the Tulsa Undergraduate Research Challenge, which was established also on almost over 25 years ago to bring in high capability students to do research with faculty and graduate students. And TU is a small place, and so we're able to do that more than other larger institutions, but we actually have world-class research going on. And I met a professor who invited me to come work in his lab. I didn't know the first thing about security or even research, but from that experience, I learned that I liked research, I liked security. If I was finding vulnerabilities in our telephone networks and then fixing them, presenting research papers, and I pretty much caught the bug at that point, and that sort of set me off on my career path from there.
Well, where are we? What's the cutting edge of cyber technology? What are y'all working on today that people should know?
Well, so cybersecurity is a huge challenge for sure, and it's gotten everyone's attention because we hear about the problems with it in the news. There are lots of interesting technical and technology challenges, but from my view, the biggest challenges are organizational, and so trying to actually get people and organizations to adopt the technologies that are available to improve cybersecurity is where the biggest challenge lies. And so my research is sort of at this economic interface to security now. So I try to understand what motivates attackers and how they choose their targets, and also how defenders react and how we can better incentivize defenders to take proper precautions.
Is the reluctance of defenders generally cost? It's going to cost too much to do what you're saying we should do?
So cost plays a role, although if you were speaking to me 10 years ago, I would say yes, it can be prohibitive, but given the attention it's paid now, cost is typically not the primary barrier. The challenge is selecting the right countermeasures and staying ahead of the defenders, which is a significant burden. Despite the great technologies that companies are developing to try to help protect us, attackers seem to be doing a better job. So I think we are reaching a point at which we realize it's not just a technology problem, it's an organizational people and process challenge too.
We're always afraid of the boogeyman, so there's this image I think we all have of maybe they're in Russia or maybe they're in China, and who knows, they might be in other places that I have no idea. How many people are doing this? How many people are trying to break into some sort of computer system that they shouldn't have access to?
So that's an excellent question. Far easier to ask than to answer.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
Yeah, we know that there are sort of different sets of threat actors. So we have the nation states, like you mentioned, Russia, North Korea, Iran, who have divisions who are trying to carry out attacks. We also have cyber criminals who are sort of profit motivated and tend to be located in post-Soviet Eastern European countries and Russia, although some of them also in the U.S. It's a relatively small number compared to the havoc that they're wreaking on our economy. When you look at the amount of money that cyber criminals make, we know that they're making maybe on the order in total a few billions of dollars a year directly.
Wow.
But the actual cost to society is so much larger, by many orders of magnitude more. We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on defense, on cybersecurity globally, and yet it's carried out by a relatively small number of actors.
Well, is our government doing enough?
So our governments are doing the best they can in many cases. I mean, I think that when you look generally at this problem of cybercrime in particular, I think that there's an emphasis to defer to the private sector and have companies defend themselves, whereas I think we might actually do a more efficient job if we allocated more resources, particularly to law enforcement. Now the challenge there is that we need to be a law enforcement coordination, not just in the United States, but also in other countries, because cybercrime is inherently global. But we have actually seen very successful interventions where cyber criminals have been arrested and brought to justice, but the budgets that are allocated to those kind of efforts is unfortunately very low relative to, I think, the impact they could have.
I was looking at your resume and looking at some of the projects you're working on, and one thing that jumped out at me is the project or problem of price manipulation in, I guess, cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? First of all,
yes.
Tell me what in the world is a cryptocurrency? I wouldn't know
Absolutely.
about that.
So, have you heard of Bitcoin?
Yes.
Yeah, so Bitcoin is the leading cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Bitcoin wasn't the first, but it was the first to really rise to the prominence to where the general public was aware of it. But since Bitcoin came around, there's now more than 2,000 different cryptocurrencies, different from Bitcoin, that you can buy and sell.
Wow.
And so what we've seen in the past 10 years, starting with Bitcoin, is this proliferation of interest in cryptocurrencies. And it hasn't really reached the point of actually affecting our economy in terms of, we're not typically buying and selling things in Bitcoin,
Right.
although in a few places you can. What typically happens is people are buying Bitcoin as a speculative financial asset. They hear about the price going up in the news, and so they then decide to buy more of it and get in. And the trouble with that is that the whole Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space is a lot like the U.S. stock market was in the 1920s, in the lead up before the Great Depression, right?
Yeah.
And so you have essentially no regulatory oversight. And so what that ends up meaning is lots of nefarious activities going on.
Yeah.
And so in some of my research, we've identified instances of price manipulation, first in Bitcoin. So you see the price going up and hear about it in the news. We've collected a lot of evidence that's shown that it was actually, a lot of that price rise was driven by insider trading at exchanges. And so one additional, more recent work, we're looking at pump and dump activities.
Yeah.
So people will promote certain coins and try to attract people to buy those coins. The price spikes and then falls later on.
Yeah.
Right. We got to get to a break.
Okay.
Tyler Moore is a professor at the University of Tulsa, deals with cybersecurity. We'll be right back with more.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative, and this year, our competition teams rank number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. BancFirst is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. BancFirst serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. BancFirst. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. We're talking with Tyler Moore, who's a doctor and a professor of cybersecurity at the University of Tulsa. You're doing some specific research. What can we learn from what you're working on?
Well, some of my research is trying to understand the effectiveness of investments in cybersecurity technologies that firms make and actually leading to better outcomes.
Like maybe a bank might set up a wall for its customers.
A bank and oil and gas company, they have an IT infrastructure, and you have to make significant investments in protecting that infrastructure. But one of the open questions is, what are the right investments? Which technologies actually prevent attacks, and what are the most cost-effective technologies?
Kind of like buying insurance.
Well, insurance actually is part of it, and cyber insurance as well. So you think about risk management generally. So one portion of that is managing your risk and mitigating it through controls, so trying to reduce the impact. But another aspect of it could be to transfer that residual risk through cyber insurance contracts. But in the context of this study that we're doing, companies are spending records amounts of money on cybersecurity controls. But a question they have is, what good is it doing? Yeah. How much is it reducing our risk of getting an attack taking place? And the sad reality is we don't have a great answer for that now. And so a lot of my research is actually trying to go out and collect the data to be able to establish the link between this investment in these kind of controls leads to this positive outcome in reducing the likelihood of attack.
Let me ask this question. It's slightly off subject, but the University of Tulsa is creating a lot of intellectual knowledge on these areas. Is there a way to turn this into businesses that can help grow the economy in Oklahoma?
Well, that's certainly something that we're interested in trying to do. I mean, so part of the University of Tulsa's strategic plan overall is to try to forge greater partnerships with the city and the region, and trying to help Tulsa develop its sort of economic future. And cybersecurity is seen as one of those key areas, right? And so when you look at, the students who've come through our program over the past 2+ decades, many leave the state and go on to federal service, working for the NSA or CIA, and that's great. But there's a number of those students who will then come back and work in private industry afterwards. And what we're seeing now with the explosive student interest in cybersecurity and computer science, many of our students are wanting to go straight into the private sector. And so they're looking for jobs that they would like to do in cybersecurity. And right now, many of them find those jobs on the East or West Coasts. And so we are working to try to change that. And so there's something called the Tulsa Cyber District, which is an opportunity zone, which was something that was created in the last tax reform about a year ago. It's a census tract sort of west of the TU campus to downtown. This is an area that the city and the university has identified as prioritizing investment in cyber. And so we are looking for partners for companies that would like to locate there, and we are essentially trying to create a hub whereby there can be eventually this nice symbiotic relationship between the education that we do and the training, and then the creation of companies and the sort of cultivation of talent that could then feed into this district and then also feed back in to the university program.
Let me ask you, on a national basis or any other way you want to respond to it, do we generally have a lot of unfilled positions in companies for cybersecurity experts, or do we have too many cybersecurity experts for the positions?
We wish we had too many. Unfortunately, we have far too few. So
but you're putting out some, are you?
We are. I mean, we're one university, one private university. We're doing our part as best we can, but the numbers are staggering. You're talking the estimates right now for the number of unfilled cybersecurity jobs today is in the U.S. is around 350,000, and it's set to grow even further. Right.
Wow.
So
that's a good career path, then, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you're inclined that way.
Absolutely. So there is a huge need for more cyber expertise, because you think about it, cybersecurity touches enterprises of all kinds, right? So you have, it's not just the tech companies who need it, it's every company that operates an IT infrastructure needs cyber expertise.
What kind of basic academic credential would a student have to acquire after graduation to be able to hold themselves out as a cybersecurity expert or person?
Well, I mean, it takes all kinds, right?
Yeah.
So there are programs where you can do even at the career tech and community college level,
Really?
for sort of technical entry level jobs. But the jobs we train for at TU, it's essentially you have undergraduate degrees and either computer science or information systems, and specializing in cybersecurity. So you go through that process as an undergraduate, and then that prepares you to go into the economy. We have at the master's level, we've long had a graduate master's program in cybersecurity, and beginning last year, we've created an online version of that degree program, which is now available, and it's taught by our same faculty. It's the same curriculum, but we've created a format that works for working professionals, because what we found is that there are many people in Oklahoma and beyond who are interested in getting these specialized credentials, and so we're meeting them where they're ready to. And so we've got students not in Tulsa, but in Oklahoma City and in other states who are now in this program, and this I think is one of the key ways that we think we can help sort of develop the economy locally.
We've talked at a very high level about cybersecurity in this show. Let's break it down now to the individual who's using their iPhone.
Sure.
And it used to be that you had a password, and that was kind of the entry level. Now you can put your fingerprint, on your iPhone. Is that enough? Where is this headed?
So for the individual consumer, there are a few key things that you can do. So the single most important piece of advice I would give is to set up what's called two-factor authentication on your email accounts, particularly like a webmail account like Gmail or any of the other big companies like that. What you can do is you can enroll so that whenever you log into this account from a new computer or a new device, it will send a second form of authentication, a text message to your phone, or you can set up other options too. And so this is so important because in many ways your email account is the keys to the kingdom, because that can let you reset your password on your bank of any other online service provider you have if it's tied to your email. And so protecting that account is the single most important thing I would say you do. And two-factor authentication is a very strong protection that you can do. Now, going beyond that, passwords are a challenge for people.
How often do you change your password?
So I am proud to say that I do not change my password very often. And the reason I do is because I use a password manager, right? So what a password manager does is you come up with one very strong password that you can commit to memory, and then you have the password manager generate strong random passwords for every other website you go to and every other app on your phone, and then you log into that, and then it will populate things for you. And so for me, that works well, and I think it can work very well for consumers, and that's sort of my second.
Well, how do
piece
you
of
get
advice.
a password manager?
So there are a number of apps you can use. LastPass, 1Password are sort of the two leading ones. It's also actually being sort of baked into Apple and Google products more now. So that's another way through. The old advice was that you should change your password frequently, but the research actually showed that was a bad idea, because people are humans, right? Most of them at least, and so they just change. They increment the number at the end, move to the next one, and so we have.
I've done that.
Yeah, exactly, and don't feel guilty.
Tyler, we really appreciate you coming on, and as we were talking during the last break, we're going to have him back on and have another show or two or three about this important subject. We'll be right back. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. And but I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick, Cornett, and Camp Meyers. We just finished a show with Dr. Tyler Moore of the University of Tulsa.
Yes, Tyler did a wonderful job talking about a very complex, complicated subject. We have to get him back.
Yes, we absolutely do. Dr. Tyler Moore is an expert in cybersecurity, and the University of Tulsa has become a national leader in that area. We have some website information. If you'd like to get more information on the programs that are offered at the University of Tulsa, you can go to their website, utulsa.edu. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. You can log on and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict. But that's going to do it for this week's show. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you right here next week with another edition of The Verdict.